Cora, great to have you with us. UNWA recently released the report Beyond the Inquiry. How do you reflect on 5 years after the release of the National Inquiry's final report?
I think my reflection is, I think when we continue to look at what's happening in our communities and recognizing that, Indigenous women are still not safe in our communities. And it's apparent by looking at, the statistics is telling a story, but also when you listen to the crises that's happening in our communities, for everything from, mental health and addiction crisis to the violence that continues to increase. We know that violence against Indigenous women has been a crisis for decades now. And this ongoing violence continues because of the lack of inaction from governments across the board. And so I think that's really, was the foundation of why we wanted to write this report, to showcase the work that's happening in communities, the work that, Indigenous women continue to do without, long-term core sustainable funding, and to continue to bring awareness to this issue.
Yeah, the report mentions that Indigenous women are still not safe, and for sure in Ontario and Manitoba, for sure, when you look at the numbers, things are worse. What do you think is behind that?
It's systemic, right? When looking at, the violence, is, there's no investments into Indigenous women safety, into our healing. When you look at, the federal budget, we see Indigenous women only mentioned twice within the budget, and it's, the investments are going to, to recover the bodies from the landfill, and the investments into the red dress alert. And so the investments that we're making is only either once we've died or, been murdered, or to recover our remains. And so we really have to start to look at, the prioritization of investing into Indigenous women's safety, into Indigenous women's well-being. There is no upstream investments happening with Indigenous women here in Canada comprehensively, and that's what we need to see.
Yeah, I guess you're kind of touching on it, but what do you think are some of the things to reverse this trend of disproportionate rates of violence against Indigenous women?
Indigenous women, they have the solutions in communities, and we need to invest into their leadership. And, we're looking at some of the barriers that we're continuing to see here in Canada. One of them is the nation-to-nation distinction-based policy to Indigenous relations. This is currently excluding Indigenous women and our organizations as legitimate partners in decision-making that impacts our lives. And so not only does this violate our rights under UNDRIP and under Canada's obligations under CEDA, that fails to recognize where the majority of Indigenous people live in urban Indigenous communities, it's dividing our communities. And we need to be able to look at adequate investments into Indigenous women's safety, into our healing. Where's the investments into preventing the deaths? That needs to be the measurement of the outcome that we need to be seeking here in Canada, is not only looking at how the systems, whether it be the policing system, justice system, and looking at solving the cases, that's, we need to have a better outcome than just solving cases. We need to see an outcome of improving the quality of life for Indigenous women. Currently here in Canada, Indigenous people, have a 10-year less life expectancy than the rest of the population, and that's just not acceptable in a first world country like Canada. And we need to continue to look at, where are those upstream investments? Where's the investments into Indigenous women's education, into the services that they need and that they're demanding, investments into their leadership. Currently we're investing into Indigenous women to remain the highest population in the federal inmate population. We're currently over 50% of the federal inmate population. So we are investing into Indigenous women, but into the wrong things. That's, to house an Indigenous woman within the penitentiary, you're looking at, I would have to guess, probably around $300,000 a year. That's probably not even including the cost of child welfare investments. And so we really have to look at prevention-based investments. And that's why we really wanted to write this report, was to recognize not only there's been such slow progress for action, but recognize that Indigenous women continue to be creative and innovative, and they're doing work all across our communities through this project-based fundings, but our lives are not projects. We need to have core sustainable investments, and we need it now.
Cora, we'll have to leave it there, but great to hear from you.
Oh, thank you.